Advisor to the office of Benjamin Netanyahu and senior contributing editor at JNS, Ruthie Bloom. Also with us, Brigadier General Blaine Holt, a Newsmax contributor, and Harley Lippman, a foreign affairs analyst, on deck this morning. Good morning to all of you.
Morning.
Morning. A lot to unpack. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, just wrapping up this update a couple of moments ago from the Pentagon. Let's listen.
Threatening to shoot missiles and drones at ships, commercial ships that are lawfully transiting international waters, that is not control. That's piracy. That's terrorism. The United States Navy controls the traffic going in and out of the strait because we have real assets and real capabilities. And we're doing this blockade, performing it with less than 10% of America's naval power.
General, between the pictures that came out of CENTCOM this morning showing our training and then the message out of Secretary of War here, what does it say about U.S. capability if this blockade is being executed perfectly with only about a 10% military might or our Navy strength?
That's more than I thought we would have used. But we have softened them up. We have taken out the essential targets. And now we're in that next phase of operations, which is we're locking you down. You're not going to get any economic benefit out of this coastline anymore. And this is done in concert with Treasury because Scott Bessent has been taking on the Shamkhani network. He has been shutting down bank after bank after bank, whether it's in Oman, UAE, London, China, Hong Kong, from moving and laundering illicit assets around. So the IRGC is broke. They're out of money. And it's going to get worse for them. So do we have extended ceasefires and deadlines and more talks? Maybe, maybe not. Because they're falling under their own weight because the money is now going away. And I love what Secretary Bessent said about Lloyd's of London. That monopoly is going away because they're a huge part of this problem. Yeah,
Bessent called it Operation Economic Fury. I'm going to play a soundbite from the Treasury Secretary here in a moment. But Harley, let me bring you into the conversation very quickly. A lot of talk that the president doesn't have an off-ramp, doesn't have a clear mission. We have air superiority over Iran. We have their seas. We're controlling every movement. We've flowed right up through the strait there. The only tankers moving through there have been approved by our military for free trade purposes. Many people, including you, have suggested that the president doesn't need an off-ramp here.
No, that's correct. This is a very successful strategy because it's providing an economic chokehold on China, which is supplying all the weapons and supplies to Iran. You know, Iran is the catalyst, but China is the target. Without China, Iran can't fight the war. And China gets about 40% of its oil through the Strait of Hormuz, and they get the rest through the Straits of Malacca, where Indonesia is. And we just upgraded our military relationship with Indonesia. Yeah. So as Trump is going into the summit with China, he could tell China that if they're going to continue to send arms to Iran, Trump could turn off the spigot.
At the end of the day, though, Ruthie, Iran doesn't seem to be budging on nuclear, and we aren't either. The president's doubled down, made that very clear. So where does that leave us?
Well, I believe it leaves us with no option other than to resume fighting militarily. But I would like to just say something about the word deal. I think that President Trump is being extremely generous because let's replace the word deal with the word surrender. The idea that somehow the Islamic Republic has leverage in a deal as though the United States and Tehran are on equal footing and they're just negotiating a deal is false. And I think Secretary Hegseth is making that pretty clear.
Yeah, he is being very clear. Let me ask you, Ruthie, before we move on. Israel and Lebanon, they're back at the talking table today. The issue is really the stronghold that Hezbollah has on that country. This is a terror proxy for Iran, one of the backers and planners of October 7th, at least complicit with it. And talks are set to resume today. The president posted this on Truth Social last night, so I'm curious for your take. Trying to get a little breathing room between Israel and Lebanon. The president doesn't waste words. What does that mean to you? It's been a long time since these two leaders have spoken, 34 years. He said it's going to happen tomorrow, but we're trying to get some breathing room. What can we realistically expect from these talks?
Okay, so first of all, he made a slight mistake. It's more like 43 years than 34 years. But also, the breathing room would mean that Israelis in northern Israel would be able to get out of their bomb shelters, and the Lebanese people would also have to stop taking cover. But here's the trouble. A few minutes ago, about an hour ago, there were reports coming out of Lebanese media that President Aoun of Lebanon is refusing to have a conversation with Prime Minister Netanyahu. So we'll see how that unfolds. But in fact, again, Hezbollah being a proxy of the Islamic Republic, it has to be defeated. And it's great that Israel and Lebanon are going to talk and try to defeat Hezbollah together. But actually, without Hezbollah part of the equation, it's not clear how that's going to happen.
That is disappointing. Ruthie, you brought us a little breaking news as the early morning hours suggested that the two heads of state would be talking later today. We'll keep an eye on that. Appreciate that headline. So the United States and Iran, they're expected to get back to the negotiating table, maybe next week. Earliest. Pakistan, this was interesting to me. The Army Chief General landed in Tehran late last night. This is a delegation trying to encourage what's left of Iran's leadership to the negotiating table to get there. Meanwhile, this also developed overnight. The head of the IRGC was taken out in a strike. So I'm curious, why would they send an army chief, Pakistan, to try to deal with the heads in Tehran rather than diplomats?
Well, having military to military contacts is a lower level, what we call a track 2 diplomacy way to try to get to an effect. Pakistan wants its stability back, and they're very, very concerned that the longer this drags on, they're going to have instability in the region. And so I can easily see why it would be in their best interest to do some sort of pre-talks. But they, I like where Ruthie's going with this stuff about what's a deal. A deal is a surrender, and it's unconditional in its nature. We're about to lay down terms on them. The only reason that the regime, what's left of it, the IRGC, is making machinations like we want to keep enriching uranium, we want this and we want that. That's not for our benefit at all.
Yeah.
It's for the benefit of the 90 million Iranian people that they're trying to stave off from a revolution. It's all theater. We've won the war. This part of the war is largely over.
Yeah. And I'm curious, Harley, do we even get to the talks in the next couple of days? I want to ask that of you, but I do want to play, as promised, Scott Bessent. He was at the White House talking about this economic news. So let me play this soundbite for you, Harley, and get you on the other side of this.
2 Chinese banks received letters from the U.S. Treasury. I'm not going to identify the banks, but we told them that if we can prove that there is Iranian money flowing through your accounts, then we are willing to put on secondary sanctions.
So secondary sanctions, basically they're looking into the forensics of your banking. Not are you dealing with Iran right now, but have you dealt with them? And we will freeze those assets. It was other level yesterday and somewhat of a breaking development out of the White House from the Treasury Secretary there. But my question for you stands, Harley. Do we just continue with these economic nooses and the strangulation? And your thoughts, do we even get back to the table to negotiate?
Well, I think keeping the economic noose tightening will break the Iranian regime. They're losing $435 million a day because they can't export their oil. Their inflation is now at 180%. When the people rose up in demonstrations for economic reasons, it was at 40%. Their currency is down 97%. They won't have the money to pay their army. This is how you break them. And I think it's really important to point out why President Trump is doing this. If they develop nuclear weapons, I believe they would use them. But even if they don't use them, there are 6 Arab nations in the Middle East that said if Iran gets a nuclear bomb, they will get one. And in that part of the world, someone's going to end up using one. So his mission is absolutely critical to make sure we get that enriched uranium.
Yeah, for the entire world. You're absolutely right. Excuse me, sir?
Yes, for the entire world.
The entire world. Harley Lippman, General Blaine Holt, Ruthie Bloom. Great conversation. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Sharon.